The following episode will contain spoilers. You have been warned.
You're listening to Cinema IRL, the podcast that throws you into the movie and asks the question, what would you do? How long is too long to wait for someone? Is 67 years too long? I guess when you're not going anywhere, it doesn't matter, right? This and more as Amber and Scott discuss eternity. And now, Cinema IRL.
I wish I could switch places for just one day.
What would you do?
Put yourself in my shoes.
How do we handle this?
What would you do?
Put yourself in my position.
What would you do?
Now it's your turn.
7 days does not feel like it's enough time to make the biggest decision of your afterlife.
I don't know. It kind of feels like an eternity. Alrighty, ladies and gentlemen, welcome to Cinema IRL. This episode, we are talking about the film Eternity. In an afterlife where souls have 1 week to decide where to spend eternity, Joan is faced with the impossible choice between the man she spent her life with and her first love, who died young and has awaited decades for her to arrive. So we have a lobby holding area that's kind of like a convention center where you go when you die, and then you choose all of these different places that you could possibly spend eternity.
It's like a lobby with a bunch of lobbyists.
Yeah. It reminded me of, some of the big conventions you go where they all have booze, and then they have people, giving you wine or chocolates to entice you to come over to their booth. And all of their places are quite interesting. There is Mall World. There is Wellness World.
I really want a list of all the worlds.
Yeah, so did I.
I feel like I need to find it because there were a lot of really, really great worlds.
Yes, there was Pearly Gates Classic. There was...
I like the classic. Like, this is what you thought it was going to be. We'll give that to you if you want it.
Yeah, and so, in short, Larry dies. He chokes on a pretzel. He dies. But his wife, who he leaves behind, actually had cancer. So he wants to hang out in this area. We never really named it, did they?
A holding area, something like that.
Yeah, I don't think they named it. Anyway, so he's like, pretty much like, my wife's sick. Hopefully she'll croak and meet me here within the 7 days. So I'm just going to hang out and wait for her. And,
but that's the thing, is that he wasn't going to. He actually hit the point where he was like, well,
initially, yeah.
I'll just tell her where I'm going to be and have her join in.
Yeah, so he's there for a little while trying to determine what land he wants to live eternity. And the thing is once you choose someplace, you can't go back. You're kind of stuck with that. Or if you try to escape and do escape, they send you into this place called the Void, which is just darkness.
Nothingness.
Yeah, for the rest of eternity.
That's boredom. I don't like boredom.
The thing is Joan's first husband, Luke, died in 1958. And he has been in this, you can stay in this holding area if you work a job. So he has stayed in this holding area for 67 years waiting for Joan to croak so she would come and he could be like, I'm here, baby. It's been 67 years. I'm waiting for you. Let's go to eternity land of choosing together.
So is payment just that you get to stay there?
I mean, is there cash transactions involved in taxes? I don't know. I mean, they say the only certain thing is death and taxes, so I would think that there'd be taxes because there's death.
Maybe. I was a little... So I guess I understood the fact that, like, okay, people get a job to stay in that area for whatever reason, but...
Yeah, you can be an aftercare counselor, you can be a bartender, you can keep the convention center going, essentially.
What I couldn't figure out were...
Afterlife. Did I say aftercare? Afterlife counselor.
Unless there's something different on this, like the ticket takers, the people who, for the memory places.
Oh, uh-huh.
Like, are they stuck there, or are they like employees of the other area so that they can go back and forth the purposes of doing their job?
You'll have to take that up with HR. I'm not familiar with the inner workings of the employment status of the holding area.
Because if I was in one of those paradise areas and I wasn't like forced to have a job,
I sure
as hell wouldn't be a ticket taker.
No, I don't think people are so what y'all don't know that Scott's talking about is when you choose one of these eternities, there is this place called Archive where any of the visitors can go and they can see memories from their past life, and each one of these archives has someone who gives you a ticket to go inside. So I don't think your eternity involves you working at a ticket booth. I think those people are brought in from the convention center area to
so you
do
think,
that. Yeah.
Okay, so you think
not that it's important and not that they said anything about it, but that would be my take, because I think they're employees.
Apparently it takes a long train to get there, but just running through a red door can get you back.
Yes. Anyway, so we have Luke, who has been waiting for Joan to die, and he's waiting there for 67 years. And then we have Larry, who just died, who's thinking, my wife's going to die. She'll be here soon. And after a couple of days of deciding where he wants to go, he pretty much is going to leave a note behind for his wife saying, I went to this eternity. Come join me when you die and get here. But his afterlife specialist wouldn't deliver the note, so he's just kind of moving on to the escalator to get on the train to go where he's going, and he sees Joan pass going the other way because she's just arrived because she died shortly after him.
Yeah, so how convenient. You died within 7-ish days.
Yeah, so the premise of the film revolves around the fact that Joan now has 2 husbands in this convention center, and they both want to spend eternity with her. One who's waited for 67 years and one who's been married to her for 65 years.
I have thoughts.
Yeah, well, come on. What would you do if you were any of these people?
If I'm Luke.
So Luke is the original husband who died in the war.
I'm not waiting 67 years.
Well, he still got some, during that time. He still, dated and experimented a little bit. And
I mean, I guess a little bit, but like I was trying to do the math on it. How old was she when she died?
Well, I mean, if she had to have been like around 87 or something, because if he's been waiting her for 67 years and they were married, she had to have at least been around 20 or so. So I think they're saying that they had to have been late 80s.
But I mean, how long had they been married for? That's the other thing too. Like, had you been married for?
I don't think it was that long. I got the impression it was maybe a year or two.
Yeah, it wasn't that much. And that's the whole thing. Like, they're in their early 20s. You don't know what love is in your early 20s. You think you do. And you might stumble across something that you might feel like is love and eventually does grow into it if you decide, like, this is the route I'm going to go. But, man, you're confused at that young age. I mean, obviously you can't tell someone that age they're confused because they'll be like, screw off, boomer.
So you had these 2 men, Luke, who Joan was married to and went off to war and never returned, and they were going to build a life together and going to build a family. And then you have Larry, who's been with Joan for 65 years, and we start off the movie seeing them in the car kind of bickering back and forth. And now, the kicker is when you go to this convention center, you get to look like the age where you were the happiest. So what would you do? What age would you pick? Because, like, some guys are like, I was happiness when I was an 11-year-old. And, you have a bunch of little boys who run around who are actually like 90 years old or something. So,
I mean, do you choose, or does, like, the universe know the answer and just puts you where you at? It seems like
they
the latter.
did not go into the logistics of the systems involved. But that does not.
They seem to wake up as a certain age.
Yeah. So what would that age be for you? When were you the happiest? What age would you be in this convention center holding pen area?
I've got to think I'm probably somewhere in my... See, I could make cases for several different time periods here.
You got to pick one.
I think if I'm just factoring all factors of life in, I've probably... mid to late 20s, probably. Like, it was really one of the first times in my life I actually had some true stability. I wasn't worrying about where things were coming from. I was able to do fun stuff. Like it was a stable time in my life, and I guess maybe with some of what I've lived through in my life, stability can sometimes equal happiness.
And we have a...
What about you?
Hang on one second. I just want one observation here. So one other person dies in this 7-day time period, and it is someone that Joan and Larry know, who is the head of the HOA. Karen. So Larry goes knocking on Karen's door of this hotel kind of that's at the convention center. And she opens the door, and everyone's, mostly young or, young adults or kids or, mid-age. And she opens up the door and he says, "Oh my gosh, you're still old." And she was like, "No, I'm not. I'm 75 now." And the thing was, so she was younger than she was when she died, but it took her to 75 for her to really find herself, because that's when did her husband die or did she get divorced? I can't recall.
I don't remember.
So
it
anyway,
took that long for her to find herself in between the legs of another woman.
Well,
that's what happened.
I'm drawing a blank if her husband died or if they got divorced. But basically, she was no longer saddled with her husband, so she went exploring, and she found out that she did like women better. And that's where she was at 75, is really taking almost, the lion's share of her life to figure out who she really was and what she really wanted and to pursue that. So I thought that was a really noteworthy observation, because you don't necessarily have to go to when you were younger to be your happiest, because a lot of liberation can come later in life when you actually lean into who you're actually meant to be.
Yeah, but I would have a hard time going to a period in my life where, we're calling a period my happiest, where like my knees and my back and other miscellaneous body parts weren't operating at peak capacity.
But, it's about more than physical things, because in Karen's case, it was her suppressing, on some degree, we certainly don't know, her entire journey, but to some degree, suppressing who she was for, 50-something years as an adult, or younger, depending, when she might have had those feelings, and living in denial of who you are. And I think a lot of people would choose a little aches and pains and be who they are than to be living a lie.
Probably. I'm not gay, and I'm not repressing anything from that respect, so I want my body parts to work.
Okay.
That way you can do squats.
Yeah, you can. You can. So the rest of the film goes with Joan trying to figure out which of these men she's going to choose, because they both want her to spend eternity with them. One being Luke, who has waited for her for 65 years, and the other one, or 67 years, and the other one being Larry, who has spent 65 years with her, and they've had children and grandchildren, and he just assumes, like, we've put in all this time, of course we're going to spend eternity together. And she's torn.
Yeah.
So what would you do if you passed and you were presented with other people from your past that you could choose, because they only presented the two husbands, but, in this scenario, you could meet ex-girlfriends, ex-boyfriends, ex-husbands, people you were interested in, or, anyone potentially, if they died within this period, or if for some reason you got some intel and knew which eternity they were in, and you can go there and stalk them.
Yeah.
Stalk them.
So I think it's a very interesting situation, and interesting in a very tragic way, obviously, when one has a spouse and that spouse ends up dying young, because like, you're not going to just not move on with your life. Like, you need to move on with your life because there's a lot of it ahead of you, but there's always kind of that whole, like, who they are and wondering your whole life what could have been if something hadn't happened to them.
And the reality is, for all we know, Joan and Luke could have gotten divorced, 2 years after. You just you assume that it was going to be this wonderful love affair, but you don't know it. Well, any one of them could have cheated or died on their own.
Once somebody passes, like, memories freeze. Like, you can't have any more bad memories. Like, you can't be like later, oh, I should divorce this guy because he's dead. Like, the bad memories tend to fade and leave the good memories, unless there really weren't many good memories and it really was all bad memories. Then that's a different story. But, and your point is one I was going to make, though. That's the thing. When you're really young like that and you don't really have that much of a basis, like, who knows what would have happened over the course of many, many years. And with the case with Larry, I mean, they were together for 65 years. You know who you're getting at that point. There is no question. I mean, yeah. So if I'm her and I'm being told you must make a decision, I think it was good for her to be able to essentially go on a couple of eternity dates with them in their respective places. But, like, the eternity date with Luke would have to be, like, so much better than the one with Larry for me to even consider making that choice, I think. Because here's the thing. I mean, unless, again, like, this is something where, like, she's been with Larry all this time and really just...
Death was her escape, and even that wasn't an escape.
Yeah. Like, she'd wanted out. I mean, did they bicker? Yeah, they bicker, etc. But, I mean, they make a good point. Like, that's part of a relationship. That's part of love. Like, that bickering really is actually part of it. I mean, obviously, it's maybe better without, but I've come to find that in the relationships in my past that I didn't bicker or fight with people at all, they tended to be some of the more superficial relationships. We didn't bicker and fight because we didn't talk about anything worth bickering and fighting over.
I think that's probably the appeal for men who cheat, especially if they have a midwife or a middle-aged wife at home, and, they're talking about getting the plumbing fixed, and, did you buy the gifts for the grandkids and all of this other stuff, and then they find some hottie to have a fling with on the side, and she's not talking about plumbing, and she's not talking about, all the boring, mundane things and it's exciting, and because it's not real. It's superficial because you're not dealing with the things that actually happen in real life to all of us. Yeah, reality is a bummer on a relationship, for sure. But reality is also what forges a relationship in fire. So, and like really, really hardens it, makes it a good relationship. So yeah, and I think they touched on that in the film too, is that it's those ups and downs and sticking with it and continuing to figure out ways to make things work, and that actually creates the more solid relationships.
Now, if I was not required to choose between those two, here's what I would have done.
You would have all gone as a threesome into an eternity and then had a little something on both sides?
Maybe, but that's not...
I don't think Larry would have liked that.
Well, here's what I would have done if I'm her. I'd be like, okay, guys, I've thought this over. I'm going to eternity number 6, 7. And that's my choice. I'm going to invite both of you to come to eternity 6, 7 with me. Not going to mandate anything.
That's not a great eternity.
I'm gonna let you choose if you want to or not, and you two should probably have a discussion, because
that would be terrible though, because then you run the risk of going there, her not choosing you, and then you being stuck in eternity, always seeing them as a couple. or maybe, I don't know, waiting an eternity until they break up and then, she comes over with you.
I mean, you basically have to have something worked out with going into it. Like they do like this little poly thing. Like they pass her back and forth.
Wow. Okay.
Or she passes herself back and forth.
So back to the question, what would you do if you were Joan and you saw, prior love interests or spouses or girlfriends, boyfriends or whatever, and you had an opportunity, assuming they died within the same 7-day period of yours, or if you stuck around in eternity and just waited. And that's what Luke did, is he took a job basically at the convention center waiting area, waiting 67 years for Joan to die. So he would be there and he would know it.
I mean, I think I just answered the question.
What?
I mean, if I've got two people who are both pursuing me in that case.
Oh, you want the polyamorous thing. That was the actual answer.
It's not necessarily polyamorous. I'd say it's an impossible decision, but it's not an impossible decision. The problem with it, if I'm being frankly honest, was Larry's arrogance of, quote, of course she's going to choose me, obviously. And that's a sort of comfortability that, frankly, can get you in trouble in a relationship. Like, you want to always, like, it sounds dumb in a way, but you always want to assume that your partner can leave you. Not that they necessarily would right away, but, like,
no,
that
it keeps you
to,
on your better behavior of like, oh yeah, no, I should actually see my spouse and listen to my spouse and do kind things for my spouse because
yes,
yeah,
100%. And I feel like Larry was just too nonchalant about it.
I mean, after 65 years, yeah, you're going to get comfortable and make some assumptions. That's a heck of a long time.
But you know what? There wasn't competition. You get to the afterlife, there was competition. So, like, you got to turn that on a little bit there. I mean, I could see it being weird for him because obviously there was nobody else there waiting for him. And he just kind of assumed that till death do us part meant maybe beyond that, but it is till death do us part.
Yeah, no, I think after death, then, everything's up for grabs.
Yeah. I mean,
okay, I've done the thing with you. I'm ready to go to mountain eternity or beach eternity or mall eternity. Or there was also a casino eternity.
Celebrity, Satanism.
Yeah.
There really were so many. I kind of
there was spy eternity.
I need this movie to come out on a format where I can pause it so I can write down all of the eternities because there were a lot of freaking great ones.
There were.
Marxism eternity. I think that one got closed down.
Yeah, I think that falls into the category of that episode of The Twilight Zone where the guy dies. He's a big gambler, does great in all the casinos.
Oh, yeah.
You know the one, and he dies, and he's in a casino, and he's like, "Oh my gosh, this is the best! I love casinos." And he's taken care of, and he goes to the tables, and he wins,
and winning, and winning, and winning,
he wins and wins and wins, and then finally, like every day of winning, he's getting kind of tired of it, and says something like, I'm tired of this. Shouldn't heaven be something, have something else to do or something like that, mentions about being in heaven. And
then
the guy says,
who says you're in heaven?
Who says you're in heaven? Yeah.
I mean,
so
it's true though. I mean,
even something you love could get monotonous and terrible.
I mean, yes, don't get me wrong. Between winning and losing, I'll choose winning over losing. But I'll say this, if you don't lose every once in a while, like the winning kind of gets mundane. It gets regular. And you don't get that dopamine hit from it. Like if you just know, oh, I'm going to win again. I win again. Okay, I win again. Like it unless it's like just some like actual like competition, you versus people and people who you know and respect and are like, yeah, these people could beat me. That's a little different. But in something like a casino where it's you versus a house, that would get boring and mundane.
Yeah, at first I was thinking during the film, not hard thinking, but it crossed my mind of like, what eternity would I want? And then I was thinking like, Doggy Eternity.
Yeah, I was going to ask.
But then I thought, okay, I'd be like playing with all the dogs and loving all the dogs. But I thought, all those dogs are going to poop and pee. And like, do I have an eternity of cleaning up poop and pee? Because if there's just dogs everywhere, like, am I basically running a stable and just that's my job? And then it just turns into this thing from this thing that I love to this horrible job of like having to pick up excrement and wipe up urine all the time.
Dog rescue volunteer eternity.
Yeah, I can leave.
Yeah, you can leave. You can. I mean, yeah. I actually was trying to think like what would be the eternity if I were you. You'd go to it. It would be something involving like animal rescue or something where you could just be around animals all the time that were completely free, could do whatever they wanted, and they just happen to want to come up to you all the time and have fun with you.
You know, and the thing that I learned in them describing the lands, and on this date you had mentioned that Joan went on a date with Luke. She also went on a date with Larry, and they went to Beach Eternity. And they got there and like, wow, this is really crowded. And the beach was full of people on lounge chairs and towels and umbrellas. And I thought, wow, you know, if I ever found myself in this situation, you need to ask some really good questions, because if I was thinking of Beach Eternity, I was thinking of an empty beach and I could just go there like at sunset and quietly, you know, watch the sunset. I didn't think of a crowded beach, and I thought, wow, if I'm ever in this situation, I need to ask a lot of questions, because once you're in this eternity, you're there, and I would hate that crowded beach.
Yeah, that would be terrible. But what actually which eternity would you go to? Like, of anything, you can create any eternity you want.
I mean, there was a sunset eternity. I do like sunsets. But what does that look like if it's always just sunset? It would, again, to your thing about doing stuff that you like, it would cease to be special if it's always a sunset.
The sunset's special because it happens for like a minute or two, and you get to see this beautiful thing, and then you know you have to wait at least 24 hours to see it again.
Yeah, and if you're in sunset eternity, it's always like that. Then it's just like, you know, the sky is always blue or the wall is always white or whatever, and it probably ceases to be noteworthy, and then you're just somewhere where the sky never changes. I don't know. I mean, that's a good question. And they certainly had so many. They had one that was like almost like you were in a medical drama and all kinds of weird places. I don't know. I mean, I like the idea of being in the wilderness, but as a human being on Earth, I would never do that, because I've seen too many horror movies and know that people get hacked up and die when they live in the wilderness. So as a human being, I couldn't do that. But if I'm in eternity, hopefully there's some screening going on and I don't have to worry about a serial killer.
I want an eternity where the NFL season is like 30 weeks long and none of the players can get hurt. They just can't get hurt. And you can just have good football. You can't do it all the time. Like, you actually need breaks and stuff from it to, again, make it feel special. Like, you have to have an off season. But I like football.
I hope you enjoy your life in football eternity.
Well, I mean,
I will be waving to you from the train station.
Well, the beautiful thing is I wouldn't have to watch it all the time. It would just be there if I could. Like, when I wanted to, I could. Like, right now, there's so little of it that I feel like...
There's so little football? I mean, you pretty much devote August through January to football. I don't know if that counts as so little football.
August through... I mean, the regular season really is just September through December. And
yes,
that's
you
when...
watch all the pregame and the training camps and blah, blah, blah.
But I don't. I don't watch preseason. I barely do anything with training camps or anything else.
Okay, well, fine. I'll give you the benefit of the doubt. September
to December.
It's only a third of the year.
That's one's fan. Well, see, that's the thing. A lot of other... I mean, if you think about it, like baseball teams play 162 games a year.
Okay, for context, people, it's not like Scott's just watching a couple of games during football season. He is an enthusiast. He does all the fantasy football stuff and all the games, and so it's not just like, oh, it's football season, I'll watch a game here. Scott is very, very devoted to
There's almost like football.
No.
Well, I think they did, but I don't think we're going to be welcome guests here.
Yeah, no, Jimmy, if I murder, hit the road.
Okay.
But yeah, no, you definitely are enthusiastic about football. But
I don't know, if I don't have anyone to play fantasy against, See, that'd be a fun thing. Like, you play fantasy, but you win every single time. Well, you're like, this gets old.
I'm sure there's plenty of other guys that would pick football eternity. So I'm sure you could definitely get together a fantasy football team.
But see, and it's actually interesting, though, because you're right. Like, football eternity would be terrible. Like, what eternity would I want to choose based on, like, things I like in my life? I mean, honestly, I'd be probably more likely to, if I was going to choose a hobby, I'd choose, like, gaming or tech type land.
Tech eternity?
Tech eternity, where you just get to play with all the new tech when it comes out on Earth.
I don't know. There was one that was mall eternity. I'm like, oh my God.
That sounds like hell.
Sounds like a living hell.
That's for people who died as teenagers.
I mean, and it's interesting because actually now that you say that, as teenagers, if you came to the convention center holding area as a teenager, hanging out at the mall with your friends actually would probably be a heck of a lot of fun. But if you were an adult and you just went shopping every day at the mall, even that, like we talk about gambling or whatever you enjoy, that would cease to be fun. It's just getting stuff you want every day. Like, even that wouldn't be fun after a while.
Yeah, and I think that's kind of the point, is that you can't choose one thing. Like, no matter what one thing you choose, it's going to get bored. So the answer of where would I go for eternity is actually very easy, in that I'm just going to go wherever the hell makes you happy. Because if I'm with you in a place that makes you happy, that is where I am going to be happiest.
Aw, I think we should end the episode right here because it's only going to go downhill from here.
It's true.
We hope you enjoyed our episode. Thank you for listening. And to catch all the new episodes, please subscribe. We release 2 to 3 episodes weekly, so we'll have new content regularly. Until next time.